that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the world of Malazan, but this time, instead of Steven Erikson, we're again taking a small, little detour to talk about books of the Malazan Empire, StoneWeilder, by Ian C. Esslemonts, co-creator to the Malazan franchise. This is probably the most standalone book. I mean, it kind of also isn't, because it kind of requires you to know a bunch of things that you should already know. But, hold on one moment. Dogs. It's the most standalone. There's obviously, you need to know who Kyle is, Greymane, Iron Bars, Corlo. Of course, if you read Midnight Tides, then you at least know who Iron Bars is. But in terms of what the main plot is about, like, this is connected, but it's also pretty much separate from most of the other Erikson books and Esslemonts books. Here we actually focus on an area that has been mentioned and talked about a little bit here and there in the Erikson books and probably also the Esslemonts books. I'm just forgetting. But it is a continent or a section of the world that has just not really been deeply explored. So, you know, here we learn about these people and how they have this big giant wall, very reminiscent to like Game of Thrones with their ice wall, you know. But this is, you know, surrounding like a sea, and these people are trying to keep these storm riders out from their place because their ancient deity back in the day, this woman, told them to do it, and so they're following their the blessed lady or whatever. And so we got that going on. But then we also got Kiska, if you remember her all the way from back from Knight of Knives. She was in Return of the Crimson Guard, and here she is still looking for Tesseract, because apparently that became a whole side thing, where we didn't know that Kiska's been looking for Tesseract throughout all these books, because he's kind of just been like out of the picture for all of Erikson's books after a certain point. Same with, you know, Esslemonts books. So where is he? That's kind of what Kiska's trying to figure out. And her starts the most boring, but probably ends the most interesting. Because of some connections there. You know, Kyle's fine. He continues to. I'll say this book is written a lot better. I still have some hiccups with it, but overall, I mean, I think it's all the characters are a bit more interesting in this book than they were in the previous book. Greymane is probably the standout here, or Relic. Also an interesting guy that's part of the Malazan Empire. But Greymane, you know, he's a betrayer. He's betrayed a lot of people, but he's called back into service, so he's got to do stuff. And it just all culminates into a lot of action, a lot of fun, a lot of good times. But as I said, I'm not much of an action guy, and there is a lot of action in it, particularly in Esslemonts' works. And so, you know, I'm always kind of glazing over that, and that's a me issue. That's not like an objective flaw of the book. That's a me issue. So I usually just glaze through and make sure I'm not missing any important points, like, you know, plot point or character death or something crazy like that. But as for the beat for beat fighting, it's hard for me to visualize that. That's just a me problem. But, you know, I don't like to compare authors because every author has different vibes, different intentions, but this is in the same sandbox. So in a sense, there is a bit of overlap there. And so I think it's kind of undeniable to say that reading Erikson's novels than reading Esslemonts' novels is kind of just like night and day. It's not that Esslemont is bad, and I've said this before in other reviews, like, he is really, really solid, much better than anything I could ever hope to write. But Steven Erikson, something about him, he's just on a different tier. And so, you know, if you're reading it interspersed like I am, it's going to be noticeable, but it's still enjoyable. So it's ultimately all that matters. And of course, there are some connections to the bigger threats of the universe in this series, which was cool. And overall, I liked the new setting. I liked the new politics and religion we learned about. I enjoyed seeing these new people and how they, worked and everything. And also throughout this book, we got little tidbits that just gave a little bit more context for the Malazan Empire as a whole. From little snippets of information we get about Caliban to learning one of the key aspects to their victory was their naval warfare, their sea power that they had. And so that helped them, um, take over a lot easier. And then when it came to diplomatic, discussions, it's like, well, we've already taken over half your land. How about we stop there? We keep the land that we've already overtaken, and you keep the rest. Like all that stuff is really interesting to learn about in here, and a lot of fun. Overall, I think the book is solid. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever. I think it's an improvement over Return of the Crimson Guard. But I'm still, I don't think I've fully 100% yet clicked with one of these Esslemont books. And I don't know if that's just because I'm also reading the Erickson books back to back with it. I'm hoping that Orb Scepter Throne are one of those last three of the halfway through, because he wrote 6 books of the books of the Malazan Empire, at least, which are interspersed with the main series. Um, it's one big, like, 16-piece epic. But I'm hoping the final 3 will kind of grab my heart a bit more than this one did. Not that it wasn't enjoyable; it thoroughly was. But I don't think I've loved a single. I've really enjoyed, but I haven't loved any of the Esslemont books so far, which I have with the Erickson books. So I'm just hoping for a little bit of a. I want to be gushing about how much I loved an Esslemont books, and I'm hoping with one of the next 3 that I can finally say that. So I'm gonna get into spoilers now. If you don't want that, get out of here. Okay, so I don't have too much, but the prologue, we've learned about the Jakaruku Crusades and Yuli, which are the people. And it kind of just does a whole bunch of time jumps. We have 400 years before the wall. That's the big thing in this book. We meet some characters named Timel, Will Otten, and Goddess wants them to build the wall. Almost like the god. I'm not gonna make that joke anymore. Never mind. I had a joke. I'm gonna drop it. Um, uh, then we have 4,156 years since the wall was made. And it's the 11th year of the Malazan occupation, which is still when Emperor Caliban ruled. So we got a little bit, sprinkling in the stuff there. So if you were being like really anal about chronological order, then you'd have to read this like somewhere like early on before reading any of the Malazan books, and that'd be really funny. We also meet this character named the Assessor. I really like the Assessor. It's really an interesting character. Um, and then we jump to 31 years in Malazan occupation, but I think this is 31 years since Lycian's takeover. I could be a bit wrong about that, but because this is where we get to basically present day. And then we have this fun little bit at the beginning where this beggar is talking, and is basically talking about their new god that they believe in, this crippled god who's all for the downtrodden and the disparaged. 31 years of the Malazan occupation was not. That was during Emperor Caliban. But when they were occupying this area of the world. Then we finally jump to present day, and it says the first year of Emperor Malik Rel's reign. So we know that it's been at least a year since Bone Hunters and Reaper's Gale. And I guess Return of the Crimson Guard. Ooh, what did I say here? Gray mane equals origin? I don't know what I meant by that. We're gonna jump ahead though. It's okay. We got book 1, The Sea. I learned a new word today thanks to this book, which is thalassocracy, which is ruled by sea power, which reminded me of the Dune movies where Oscar Isaac's like desert power. This time we got sea power. Meet a character named Hiam and Ivanar, who are both pretty interesting. I enjoy them. And then Kiska around this point shows back up again. Cool. and we learn about this new character named Suthal Ani, who's this kind of like tribe dude who joins the Malazan Empire, and he's ready to fight and fight the good fight. But his name's really long, so people call him Suth for short. Then we jump into book 2, The Land, and we have there's another character named Quint who we meet, and him and Hiem have a nice moment. Ivanar believes that religion is bad, but there's all this stuff going on in the book, and he's basically going to be worshipped whether he likes it or not. We meet a big friendly giant named Manask, who's really fun. He's kind of like Esslemonts Croupy or Iscariopust. He's a lot of fun though, in my opinion. We don't get to see Edgewalker in this novel, but we get mentions of him again, and a lot of beings within the Shadow Realm consider him the Guardian. Also, it's abundantly clear that we're continuing to see that the initial plan for Emperor Caliban and Dancer to become Shadowthrone and Cotillion don't exactly know what's going on, which is really interesting and cool because they keep saying that the Shadow Realm, they don't fully understand what it is they actually are doing in there. This is also, I noticed in this book, is the most time we spend with Moranths in Malazan. I think they're also in a little bit of Return of the Crimson Guard. I think they're going to be a bigger, more prominence in the next book, Orb Scepter Throne, along with the Segula. But it is just really interesting because they were a big thing in book 1. They're in a little bit of book 3, I think, but they haven't really played like a major role, and we don't know too much about the bug people, so it's nice to see them getting a little bit more love. We meet some more characters named Shell, who's really cool. Shell is like a mage, and she's really awesome, and I don't have too much what to say other than I really enjoyed her sections. And another character named Blue. Also, Kyle becomes an adjudicant, so good for him, I guess. And then we jump ahead. This is actually the first time in Malazan, I guess outside of Night and Knives, where we don't have 4 books within a single novel. It's just 3. So we jump on ahead to the final book, which is book 3, and all the shores between. I mean, of course, there's an epilogue, but that's not what I mean. So, again, we've had them pop up, I think, here and there, and they've been mentioned multiple times. But this is the first time we get, like a whole section dedicated to the Tisti Liaison, who, the only thing I can compare is that the Tisti Eater are more like tribal, more like Native American, I guess, and the Tisti Andi are more like the edgelords, like they're a lot like your Elric, or your Witcher, or name your pick, like very powerful, epic beings, but the Tisti Liaison, even though none of these people are elves or anything, they're the series equivalent to elves. The Tisti Liaison seem to fit the closest representation of that classic archetype because, they're very polite, and respectful and very rigid, which is interesting because they're the army of light as opposed to the Eater, which is the army of shadow, and then the Andi, the army of darkness. We meet this lady named Jaya Shol, who's the daughter of the Lord Lycerical Cal. I wrote the name down. I'm sure it will matter in a future Erickson book, but I wrote it down because Lord sounds important. I also got to mention during book 2 that Baruch, who I even forgot to mention, not Baruch, Backroon, something like that. He is another interesting character, but he gets put in prison. We learn, because the water's been going higher up with the big giant wall that was made, and we learn that the wall's not sinking down, the water's simply rising up. We also meet a character named Jarud Leazan, and Kiska meets him along with this character named, did I not write it down? I guess I didn't, but Javinth, or Javel is his name. Javel. he starts accompanying Kiska, and they go on this adventure, and they eventually meet the Liaison people, and they bring them in as guests, and they have like dinner together, and they eat all their food and drink all their drinks and everything. But something that they write down, or that they say, is that their food is bland, serious, boring, and practical, like them, which I thought was interesting. We get to see Lorik again. If you don't remember Lorik, go back to the Bone Hunters. But here's where we learn the big thing for this book, or at least a big thing to me in this book, which is that Jevel, however you say that, is actually Leomund. Yeah, Leomund from books 2, 4, and 6. He was in charge of what remained of the Sheikh army back in the Bone Hunters. And there's a big final siege at Yakton. Well, here he is. He's back. I didn't know if we would get anything more with him because he kind of just bailed on the army and left. But here he is again, and I'm excited to see because he actually has a really interesting rapport with Kiska, and I want to see where that goes further. So that was really cool. There's also Iron Bars. He's been locked up. He's been forced to fight in these gladiatorial like arenas constantly because he's an avowed. He can't die, so they just keep him locked up. And there's this awesome scene near the end where he kills this guy. Oh, it was so satisfying. It was so good. Then we also learned that there are Warrens that are the crippled god's realm, I guess now, because he's getting stronger. Again, all leading to the final book of the series as a whole. But yeah, I didn't write too much more down. I probably should have, but I'm gonna be honest, a little bit tired today. I don't know why. I got plenty of sleep, but alas, I wanted to power through because I wanted to get to Toll the Hounds, and I didn't know when I have another time to speak because life often gets busy. So here we are. But overall, again, I'm really enjoying the books of the Malazan Empire. I'm really enjoying Esslemonts' writing. I think he's really good. Still like a solid like A student, right? Like if we were still in school, like I think he's really good. It's just I don't know. I think Arison is like on a whole different level, and so it makes me crave to go back to that. At the same time, like while I'm reading this, it's a lot of fun. I just I don't think I've loved any of these yet, and I hope that can change with the future book. And I know that's entirely subjective. Like some people will be like, "This is the best book by Esslemont ever," and that's totally true and valid. And I think there are a lot more positives and flaws that this book has to offer. Personally, for me, I'm still waiting for that. Like, my heart has been captured by it, but maybe it will happen. We still got 3 books to go. But overall, pretty solid. I do recommend it. If you finished the Malazan Book of the Fallen, then just go and read all the of the Malazan Empire series because it interconnects with the main series, but you don't need it, and it's just a lot of fun. And if you haven't read it, a million different people are going to tell you which order you should do it. Do it all publication order. No, do all of the Malazan Book of the Fallen first. No, do all of this. Do all that. Do whatever you want. But I think my way has been pretty safe so far. So in terms of spoilers and whatever else. So I hope you all give this book a chance if you haven't. A lot of people have been discussing this on the internet. I know Philip Chase and Critical Dragon has, and a couple other people have, but it's a book that's not talked about enough. The Esslemont books aren't talked about enough, let alone Erikson's books, which aren't nearly talked about as much as they should be. These books should be taught in schools. Like these books are really good, and yet they're not given the love that I think. I mean, they get a lot of love, but they don't get as much love as they deserve. They should be mainstream. Like this is some of the best fantasies and best fiction I've read in a really long time. The last time I felt like this, I was reading Supernatural Encounters by Joe Bongiorno, or even Dark Plagueis. But it is so good, guys, and I highly recommend it. Up next for you, I have Toll the Hounds by Steven Erikson. Till then, guys, don't pray to the crippled god, please. You'll end up regretting it. Till next time.